We have a big video here on the Heat Report because there is a report out there that Pat Riley and the Miami Heat are monitoring big men with NBA experience. Now, this could mean a lot of different things. Are they looking into the free agent market? Are they looking for potential trade partners? But all I have to say right off the bat is thank goodness. Because when you think of what this Miami Heat roster has and then needs, big men depth is at the top of the list. They've made some good moves this offseason, acquiring Norman Powell, re-signing Davion Mitchell. But one thing that they have lacked is getting some depth to that front court. You look at the roster, you got Kel'el Ware starting at center, Adebayo at the 4, and yes, Bam can play the center spot still, but I'd like to see him fully lean into being a wing 4 type of guy, maybe lose some weight, get more athletic like he was coming into the league, and not so built physically because he has to defend centers. And if you look at the bench for Miami, there is no true big men behind him. Nikola Vucevic is your top guy, and he's not a 5 in the NBA. To me, you just can't go into this year with Bam and Ware as your only 2 true bigs. Just can't happen. So to me, it's obvious that if Miami wants to go make a move the rest of the way, if it's not trading Rozier and you're adding a player, it needs to be a big man. That's my thoughts, but hey, let's get into today's show. Before we look at some centers Miami could ultimately add to this roster, this was the exact report from Ethan J. Skolnick of 5 Reasons Sports Network on their Off the Floor Discord. He said that the Heat continue to check in on the bigs with NBA experience, but nothing right now is imminent. All I am happy about is that they know they need to add another big man, and if they are checking on them, then I would have to imagine they are trying to make a move to add some depth to the front court, which is good enough for me at this point with so much time between now and the regular season starting in mid-October. And if the Heat make a move, whether it is signing a two-way player or a player to the standard contract or making a trade, we will have you covered with a video, so make sure you subscribe to the channel today. But when you talk about adding a big man to the roster, now the question remains, how is it going to be done? Is it going to be signing someone that is currently an NBA free agent, or is it going to be in the trade market trying to maybe get rid of a Terry Rozier or someone else that is expiring for a big man that fits your roster? Well, I tend to believe it's more or less in the trade market because the free agent bigs available are not that good, and the number next to each player is their age. There are a couple names that I guess are intriguing to me, like Mo Bamba, the former lottery pick. Kai Jones have really had a good end of the season after being out for most of the year. Achiuwa, we know about him. Bol Bol and Chris Boucher, sure, but some of these guys are washed. Some of these guys can't really play the center spot anymore. The only person on this free agent list that truly moves me any certain way is the former Miami Heat player, Precious Achiuwa. Achiuwa has bounced around the league with the Raptors and the Knicks after being traded in the sign-and-trade for Kyle Lowry from Miami. He just didn't put anything together concrete for the Heat in that rookie season, struggled with his hand-eye coordination, dropped a lot of balls, but you still see on a nightly basis with Achiuwa that he plays extremely hard, he competes, he can rebound, and he's a player that I think would be a very solid third big in rotation behind Bam and Kel'el Ware. You look at what he's done the past couple of years, he has kind of tried to incorporate a more of an outside game, which I don't know if I love. He's capable to knock down a catch-and-shoot three-point shot, but I always thought Achiuwa should have just focused on being a big man. But you look at him. He struggled from the free throw line, about a 50% shooter, but he consistently averages about 7 points and 6 rebounds a night. And that's all you're asking from your backup big. We just need you to not be so bad in the 15 to 20 minutes you play on a nightly basis to where we can't hold our own in those minutes. That was the case with Thomas Bryant. It was the case with Cody Zeller. It was the case with Dwayne Dedmon. Those three, when they came on the floor, everything for Miami went to shit. What did that happen with Achiuwa? I'm not so sure. I have a little bit more faith in him compared to the three big men that have been the backup centers for this organization over the last 3 to 4 years. But let me know your thoughts. Would you sign Precious Achiuwa, the 20th pick in the 2020 draft? Would you reunite with him? Type S for sign, type P for pass, pin comment on today's show. So let me know your thoughts. I would type S. I really would love to see a reunion, not only because I think he's the best free agent big man on the market, but I'll say this, I do think it's a pretty cool story, and I am a sucker for a cool story. Having Achiuwa not have a long career in Miami after being drafted in the first round. A lot of fans, including myself, had a lot of expectations for Precious. Obviously, didn't pan out. I'd love to see him try to come back and make himself a pivotal player on this Heat rotation this upcoming season. I'd love to see it. And I'll say this. If you can't sign Precious Achiuwa, which maybe you can, maybe you can't, I would quickly turn my attention to the trade market. Because Achiuwa is, to me, the, without a question, best big man out there. And I know there's Al Horford out there still as we're filming this, and people are going to say, well, what about Al? He's already a Golden State Warrior. It's just a formality. They just need to figure out what's going on with Kuminga. So Achiuwa is the best one. And I would majorly consider a trade after missing out on Achiuwa if that actually is the case. Now, also, I know people will say, well, what about Nikola Vucevic? Could sign him. I'll be very clear on this. The reports out there that the Bulls are allegedly going to buy out Nikola Vucevic is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and there's just absolutely no way the Bulls actually do that. The Chicago Bulls are actually a pretty cheap franchise, believe it or not, despite being in a pretty large market and having one of the biggest brands in the NBA. They don't pay that much. You think that ownership group is going to pay $20 million for someone not to play on their team? Yeah, he ain't getting bought out. So the only way you acquire Nikola Vucevic is via trade. But Miami does have a compelling, reason to trade for Vucevic, and they can offer Terry Rozier in this deal. Vuce makes $20 million. Rozier makes $26. Chicago can take in the extra $6 million on Rozier's contract. You would have to attach draft capital to Rozier in order to satisfy Chicago taking $6 million extra, and I am fine doing that. I have been open about not wanting to trade a first-round pick swap or a standard first-round pick or multiple second-round picks to get rid of Rozier. But if it takes you one second-round pick, to get a player of Vucevic's caliber, yeah, that is a no-brainer for me to move off of Terry Rozier because Vucevic was very solid statistically last season on the offensive end. Now, the reason why Vucevic's stock is in the gutter is because he can't defend at a high level, and he really isn't that athletic and gets killed in drop coverage in the defensive side. And when he gets brought out to the perimeter, he gets absolutely crushed on the defensive side. But it's never been about the offense. And if that is your third big man and he's coming off the bench and playing 15, 20 minutes a night, yeah, that would be absolutely perfect. You could not find a better backup big than that. And there's also a little bit of an added benefit as well. First of all, he's been one of the most offensively gifted big men in the NBA since he's been with Orlando starting in the mid-2010s. You don't think that his veteran leadership and mental ability couldn't give some tricks of the trade to Kel'el Ware, to Bam Adebayo, to help develop them even more on the offensive end of the floor? I think that's absolutely something that could happen, and it's another reason why I would absolutely be in on grabbing Nikola Vucevic. You should be all in on grabbing this Heat hoodie. Go to chatsports.com/culture sale. That link's in the description and comments of today's video. It's 50% off. Usually $70. You can get it for $35 right now. Sizes are running out. Triple X's are gone, but they still have small, medium, large, extra large, and 2X's, so grab yours today. I do want to make this clear because I know a lot of people are going to talk about potentially moving Terry Rozier for a backup big, and I would be all in on doing that. The issue is the money has to semi-work. And it's hard to find centers that teams would be willing to part ways with that would be able to also take in Terry Rozier's contract. I think the Chicago Bulls are one of them. That's why I consistently bring up Nikola Vucevic. Another two that we've talked about on the channel before are in Utah and Portland with Jusuf Nurkic and Robert Williams III. Now, you would have to take in 2 players in that trade. It would likely be Matisse Thybulle and Robert Williams to satisfy the financial aspect of it. It would get you underneath the luxury tax as well, but it would give you 15 max roster spots, which I don't think is that big of a deal because Robert Williams and Thybulle are both expirings. As you get your backup center, Thybulle could be a wing defender off the bench. Now, Nurkic makes $19.9 million, an expiring deal there. And I know a lot of Jazz fans are like, well, why would we do that? Well, Nurkic is bad. You got to clear up spots for Kyle Filipowski to get some playing time. Like, to me, these two aren't really in the long-term plans of their respective teams. So why not maybe get either a second-round pick alongside in a $26 million expiring contract, or maybe just reshape the roster to let some other young guys play. But I will also add, there are other opportunities for Miami to trade for a center. Those options, Vucevic and the 2 we just mentioned, are the most likely targets if you are trying to trade Terry Rozier for a big man. But there are big men available that make about $5 to $6 million that maybe you make a different trade. That isn't Terry Rozier, but you trade a Haywood Highsmith, a Simone Fontecchio, to potentially get underneath the luxury tax or just shape your roster because Highsmith's not an expiring, and you grab a backup big. These are the 4 that come to mind that you could argue are expendable by their teams and don't make a ton of money. Nick Richards makes $5 million in Phoenix on a 1-year deal. They have Kaman Malawach and Mark Williams. I feel like Nick Richards is pretty expendable as a third big on that Phoenix Suns roster. Trace Jackson Davis is intriguing to me. I think you have to talk up Mitchell Robinson at $12 million. They may look to move off of him. If you offered Highsmith and Simone Fontecchio for Mitchell Robinson, would they be willing to do that? I think they might. The Knicks get 2 wing players to come off their bench, improve their depth, and the Heat save a little bit of money there. Taking back $12 million, sending out about $13.5. That could be interesting. And then what was the other one that I had on there? Andre Drummond. The Sixers don't want him. They don't. And he picked up his $5 million player option. You can easily acquire him. But I think Nick Richards is the most intriguing option because the Suns went out and tried to get him. They traded at the deadline. They prioritized getting Nick Richards. And he was relatively solid for them this past year. But the truth is, they have just continuously made moves that show that Richards might be expendable. Like I mentioned, 1-year, $5 million contract. You drafted Kaman Malawach at 10. You traded a first-round pick for Mark Williams. I mean, those are likely your 2 centers. So Richards as your third guy on an expiring deal, I think could be expendable in Phoenix. We know that the Suns covet Haywood Highsmith at a very high rate. They want Haywood Highsmith. They made him necessary in a Kevin Durant deal. They've tried to sign him in the past. He makes $5.6 million. Richards makes $5 million. Could you just see a Haywood Highsmith for Nick Richards swap? I think both are in the same caliber of players in their value around the league, and it's just more or less, well, the Highsmith would help the Suns roster a little bit more, and Richards would help the Heat roster a little bit more. And with so many wings on this Heat group already, in Fontecchio, in Jovic, in Jaquez, I think it could make sense to potentially make Haywood Highsmith available via trade. I'd be very fascinated by swapping Highsmith for Richards, and I tell you what, I would not be against it whatsoever. But let me know as we get out of here on today's show. Would you trade for a center? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get down in the comment section and let me know. And the final word on today's show, just get me a backup center, man. Like, I don't want to have to deal with Jovic playing small ball 5 or Bam having to play a lot of minutes this year at the 5 either. Kel'el Ware's your starting 5. You're starting to invest in that combination of Bam and Ware at the 4-5. Let's keep Bam at the 4, and let's get another actual true center to where Kel'el Ware comes and sits on the bench. He plays 26, 28, 30 minutes a night. Nick Richards or whoever you get as that backup center plays the other 18. I don't think that's that bad of a move. Let's do it. Come on, make it happen, Miami. And as I mentioned earlier, when the Heat make a move, inevitably, we will always have you covered. So subscribe to the channel and join the family.